So for the advanced part of this challenge, I would say that it's kind of the same level as the intermediate, but just something different to try. So if you haven't already given it a go, definitely give it a go. I don't think there's anything too hard in there. So we're just taking that LSOA data again, making sure that our all ages and over 65s are integers, and then grouping them up to the LA code because we want to bring in our districts. So all of our districts here, if I just wait for that to render, these are sort of a higher level than LSOA, so we need to aggregate them before joining those on. I could work that one out myself because I could just look, say, for example, in here before the aggregate and sort of see that if I look at the LA code, it is sort of the same across all of these rows for all of these different LSOAs. So join those together and then calculate that over 65 percentage. Okay, and then we just want to do a map that colors it based on that percentage. So this time we need to make sure in the data tab we go and choose a thematic field of over 65 percentage, and then add in our polygons layer. And in here, if we expand that, we can see we now have a theme as well as a style. So in the style, I just reduced the outline size to be 1 rather than I think it starts at 3. So that's quite a thick line. And then in the theme, we do a manual tile method so that it matches the output that we're required to get. Starting color of yellow, ending color of red, and just doing like every 2, so 14 to 28. And then we also want to change the above 28 to be blue, just because that's how it looked for some reason in their map. So that's how we sort out all of the map things. I go through this quite quickly, but this takes me quite a while to remember how to configure this fiddly tool. Okay, this time we want a header as well as a footer. So for the header, it's cool that you can just include an image, so you just write your title there, and you can include a logo, and it automatically gives you the option to use Alteryx's logo rather than having to go find an image of Alteryx's logo. I mean, it's quite clever, obviously, of them to get their branding out there, but useful still for this challenge. And then we just put on that same footer, so I just copy and pasted this. And another render tool, so in the render tool, making sure we have header and footer ticked this time, and that pesky little show header and footer on first page ticked too. So if I just go and show you what that looks like, then there we go. So once that goes away at the top, you can see the headers up there. You can see it's kind of hiding behind the Alteryx bit. The footer's down the bottom. We got our legend nicely next to our map. Okay, there we go. It's gone away so you can see it nicely. There we go. Okay, so that's the first part that we had to do. Next time, we needed to work out the population density. Again, I think I did have to look up what they meant. What did they want by the population density? So they meant for each of those LSOAs, how big is that area in square miles? So we output that as a field, and then calculate all ages over area square mile. We want to plot that on a scatter plot. So we do the population density and the over 65s, and that looks like this. So it's not just a scatter plot, it kind of gives you some error bars and trend lines as well. So you can kind of see that a higher population density means that we have a lower population of over 65s, which makes sense. You know, when you're older, you want to retire to the countryside rather than in a city. And then we want to also know the Pearson correlation coefficient. So just tick our 2 fields that we're interested in. And similarly, we want our Spearman's rank. Yeah, is that what that's called? I'm doubting myself suddenly. Yeah, Spearman correlation. So just selecting our 2 fields there. We get values out of there, so those 2 sort of values. I found that when I put it into a table straight away, it changed it to just be -1. It just rounded them to be whole numbers. I didn't want that. I wanted to be showing a bit more detail than that, because it's a very big assumption for something that only runs between -1 and 1, that these relatively high values would correlate to -1. So I changed them into strings for the purpose of putting them into the table. So I used a multi-field tool and just did like to string round current field to 3 decimal places. So that now when I put it into my table, there we go, I keep my detail. Unioned these 2 together, put in another layout tool, and put in that same footer again, and what you can see when you get out up there is a nice table again with our table at the top, our scatter plot there, and the footer down below. Okay, so that was quite a long challenge. Thank you if you bared with me, and I hope that was useful for anyone who has been struggling with it.